Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This will be the third meeting of our community meetings with this one being virtual, obviously. The prior two have been in person last week. Got a lot of positive feedback, a lot of ideas that we need to run forward with. But thank you again for joining us, and let's go ahead and kick this off. Okay. So why are we here? So what we'd like to do is run through why we're doing what we're doing, what we're doing about it, i.e. the process, right? Look at a couple scenarios, some initial scenarios, and then what happens after today, right? We're about midway through the process of establishing new boundaries. And so give you guys some feedback or give you guys some indication of what will happen next. Okay, so current context. Our district is growing, and I think everyone on this call probably realizes that. In 2022, we passed a bond in response to the growth. But looking at this chart, you can see we're looking to increase by 21% by the 2025 school year. And the growth really does not stop based on our current projections. Here we've got two great maps to kind of show the density of our K-5 population. One on the left side, you'll see a heat map, really indicative of the areas of growth within our district. And on the right side, you'll see the corresponding numbers that go with that, with those heat symbols. And I should also let you know this meeting is being recorded, and we will post this to our boundary webpage within the next few days. So you can see the pockets of growth around our Weld RE-4, the school district. We've got a bunch of growth up in our population up around Severance, Windsor, and then even some in West Greeley. So I mentioned the 2022 bond earlier. What that did was provide us with two new elementary schools opening in fall of 2024 and an additional middle school planned to open up in the fall of 2025. Also, expansions at Severance High School and Severance Middle School. What does this mean? We now need to adjust our boundaries, right? We've got to populate the new schools. We've got to relieve our existing schools. So 2016 was our last boundary adjustment, and that was with the opening of Severance High School. And that really just moved the boundaries for the high schools. So Windsor High School and Severance High School. So what are we doing about it? So in May, we put out an all call to the community, the Weld RE-4 community, to build a boundary committee. We were very intentional about creating a very representative committee. So we have folks from Greeley, Windsor, Severance, from the elementary, middle, and high school levels. We've invited folks from our transportation department. We've invited staff members from our special education to all get their perspectives and make sure we're not doing anything that would be harmful to those groups of students or transportation processes. But overall, we feel like it's a great representation of our community, our Weld RE-4 community. So that was presented to our community in May, and we selected through the application process roughly 19 members, which we took to our board of trustees in June. They approved those list of committee members. And we held our first meeting on June 29th. That meeting was all about establishing the committee and bringing together the goals and what we're looking to do. You can see some of those task items bullet pointed there, gathering the community input, which is what we're doing right now. Transparent, fair, and balanced, best we possibly can, right? And then looking at not just the immediate needs. Obviously, we need to fill the schools, the new schools, but looking at the 3, 4, 5, 6 years out and making sure that we don't overwhelm a school going through this process down the road. And ultimately, we want to minimize the disruptions to our students. We don't want families moving around, moving kids from school to school. We know kids get attached to their teachers and their friends and those school communities. And we want to make sure that we honor that throughout this process. So we talked about balanced schools, right? The continuity, we want to honor the feeder patterns where we can. And then we mentioned the special education and transportation departments, making sure that we don't create issues where we're running buses across the entire district to transport students. So we talked about the committee selection and the kickoff. We held meetings late June, in July, and August. In August, I should say the July meeting, we really the committee dug into the data, looked at the demographers report, and got a better understanding of the data behind the process and what we're looking at doing. August 10th, we held another meeting with our demographer on site. They were built several scenarios, which you'll see here in a little while, that our committee was able to pick apart, tweak here and there based on the initial information we had. And then we made a decision that we wanted to get community feedback. So here we are. So there's a lot of work yet to be done. And we want to make sure that everyone on this call understands that the scenarios you're seeing this evening are far from complete. The reason for these community meetings is to get feedback from our community and take it back to the committee and allow them to do work. So with that said, so we've talked about a couple of these items, but safety, right? We want to make sure that our boundaries are, we work with natural boundaries like waterways or main thoroughfares through our community. When we can, we want to try to maintain existing neighborhoods, bring those kids together. Balanced school populations. Again, we don't want to overwhelm one school and then have another one underpopulated. And similar to the neighborhood criteria, we'd like to keep the kids close to their nearest school. And additional considerations down the road. We're looking at grandfathering and the effect that might have on siblings. This is yet to be had, that discussion. We'll be working with our committee and our board at the workshops in September and October to discuss these items and figure out the path moving forward. So on to the scenarios. And I've said it, and I'll say it throughout this meeting. These scenarios are preliminary. These have not been decided. These are for gathering feedback. They're the first attempt, if you will, at creating new boundaries. And we need your feedback, and we'll go over a couple different ways to provide that feedback here in a little while. Okay, so this is a snapshot of where we are now. Okay, you can see the capacity numbers on the left and our current enrollments on the right side. So, for example, Grandview Elementary School has a core capacity of 600 students. Currently, we have 779 students enrolled in that school. Very quickly, I want to go through what core capacity means. Our schools are built based off of guidance from our long-range planning committee and ultimately our board, which established our capacities at 600 for elementary schools, 900 for middle schools, and 1,200 for high schools, roughly 1,200. This was decided many years ago, and the board reaffirmed that prior to putting the bond out in 2022. But what core capacity means is that's what the school is designed and built to, for the common areas, the cafeterias, the gyms, the corridors, those common spaces. Those are all designed and built for 600 students at the elementary school level. We can add classrooms all day long through modulars, but it does nothing to affect the core space of those campuses. And that's how why we came back and said, hey, we need new campuses to create additional core capacity. Any of you with students at Grandview have been in school during the day, have seen how packed those hallways get. And, it's somewhere, Windsor Middle School, we have something like 6 lunch shifts. So spaces just were not designed for the student load. All right. So first scenario, yes, it's called option 2. It was a variation of the initial option provided by our demographer, but most of those comments were incorporated. On the right side, you'll see elementary 2 with our current elementary boundaries, the red lines, and overlaid with the demographer's first shot at what these new boundaries might be. Here are the numbers that correspond to that those options, that option 2. So on the left side, you've got the capacities, and then you'll notice the school years 24-25 through 29-30. That is the demographer's best guess at what those numbers will be down the road, the projections. So you can see with option 2, not a bad option. We're only opening one campus, Rangeview, at over capacity. So 600 capacity, 24-25, they're looking at enrolling 725 kids in that campus. And it really never drops. It just continues to grow at a steady pace, but it never drops below its capacity. Okay, here's the next option. Calling this number 3. This really had worked around trying to create a better situation at the Rangeview Elementary School site. Because we hadn't really affected that much, we wanted to see what we could do. So you can again see the existing red lines are the existing boundaries, overlaid with the option number 3. Give you a sec to look at that. It also did a little work down on the Skyview and Raindance site elementary schools. Okay, what that did was bring down everybody just a little bit. Got Rangeview in a more comfortable spot, down to 6, opening up in 24-25 with 683 kids. And again, steady growth for the most part, but it did bring them down from that initial 725 students. The other big change here, again, was the Raindance, and I'm sure most of you on this call have heard this. But this is the option that shows the Raindance site elementary school, northern border being drawn at New Liberty. So what that means is everybody north of New Liberty would be zoned into Skyview, while everybody south of that, south of New Liberty Road, would be included in the new Raindance site elementary school. You can see how the numbers lay out here. Like I said, everybody remains under capacity with the exception of Rangeview, but that impact is even reduced. Option 3B, we created this to look at what might happen if we included all of Raindance site elements or Raindance neighborhood into the Raindance site elementary school. You can see that includes all of the homes north of New Liberty, as well as the rest of the homes in Rain Dance. So here's what that did to the numbers. You look at 24, 25. What that shift means is we're now opening Rain Dance Site Elementary, almost 700 kids, and it peaks at 763 kids in 26, 27. The other impact, obviously, is the reduction in the Skyview feeder pattern. Goes down to 384 and doesn't grow much. The unique situation around that school is there's really no more development that will happen within a reasonable area for that campus. And so that's one item to note, that it really will not grow past these levels unless we create, and there's ways to make it grow through choice applications, but through the natural boundaries, really no way to make that school grow anymore. On to the middle schools. Same situation we talked about with the elementaries. Severance Middle, current capacity at 600. You'll see the note with the passage of the 2022 bond, that capacity will be increased to 900 students. Currently, we have 725 students enrolled. Windsor Middle School, capacity of 700, and a current enrollment of 819 students. All right, middle school option number 1. This scenario includes the future County Road 15 Middle School with a capacity of 900 into the current mix of Windsor Middle and Severance Middle. This was the first shot that the demographer took at trying to balance some of these schools out. Here's the numbers behind that scenario. So opening up County Road 15 Middle School, 713, Severance drops to 543. And then Windsor, never really, similar situation to what we're having at Rangeview Elementary, it never drops back below its capacity. And it does grow a little bit, but it levels back off 4 or 5 years down the road. And then the County Road 15 and Severance campuses have a pretty steady growth for the next 5 years. Option number 2, we took a look at this just as another something else to look at. How do we create relief for Windsor Middle? And that's just what this is showing. I should note also the blue lines are the existing middle school boundary, the attendance areas. So this scenario, I think, was pretty dramatic at decreasing the students at Windsor Middle School. We were able to get it down below its capacity of 700, and bringing all 3 schools in line, growing with a pretty steady rate. You'll see that Windsor Middle School has a pretty balanced school population all the way to 2930 when we see a big jump. If you'll take a picture of this QR code or focus your camera on this QR code, it'll take you to the interactive map for all of these scenarios that you can take a look at. And as we create additional scenarios, we will post them to this website and allow you to see what the committee is working on. I'll hold that for a second. Okay, let's talk next steps. So this evening, we don't have a Q&A session. We would like to capture the Q&A through email so we can submit that to our boundary committee on September 12th. We would ask that you submit all of your feedback by September 10th. That way we'll have time to compile and provide this for our committee next week. On September 12th, the committee will be reviewing all of the feedback. and preparing a presentation for our board workshop on September 18th. Based on that feedback from our board and the community, we'll go back to the drawing boards and tweak boundary lines and bring that back to our board on October 16th. And give our board of directors another chance to review and provide feedback. I would also invite anybody on this call or anybody in the community to attend those board workshops on the 18th and the 16th, or write your representative and let them know how you feel about the boundaries and the process, because that will all wrap up in November when the board an action is brought to our board. I believe on November 13th is where it's at now, for final recommendation and action by our board. Following that, there will be a communication push from the district to help our community understand where they're zoned to go to school, and what that impact might be. So thank you. I really appreciate your time this evening and the opportunity to get out in front of you and let you know what we've been working on. Again, I want to make sure you understand that this is a committee-based recommendation to our board. District staff are the middlemen between our demographer and our committee. So we're just helping facilitate, but ultimately our committee will make a recommendation to our board of directors, which will make the final decision. And so any feedback you can provide to us to the Engage account, engage@weldre4.org, will be critical in helping guide that committee and their recommendation to the board. So thank you again, and please reach out if you have any specific questions about the process. You can have my email address on this slide, but any feedback for the boundaries itself, please email engage@weldre4.org. Thank you and have a great evening.